Hi, it is Sunday. I'm a little bit more put together than I was yesterday in yesterday's video. My hair is growing and the different layers and everything is kind of growing out. It's a little bit like shedding skin. You know the look you're going for. You know the life you're trying to get to. And you go when you stop paying attention to all those things, and then all of a sudden you look at yourself and you look at your life and you're like, oh my God, I can't do this anymore. I can't be seen like this anymore. And I've been cutting my own hair. I've always colored my hair and highlighted it, and I've been using a different base because I can't quite decide if I'm going back to be a brunette or what I'm doing. But the point in all of this is we can physically look at ourselves and know that something is not right. Whether it's, a sign of aging, which is really, really bothering me this year. It never has bothered me before, but it is bothering me now. I want my eyesight back. I want these little jowl things and puppet lines to go away. All the forehead lines from frowning and, the lip lines from years of crying and being heartbroken. We look at all these visible things, but what about all the internal things? What about all the internal things and all the bad tapes that we have been made to believe that it really are not our issue, or it's not our responsibility to fix what we didn't break? The heartbreak from betrayal or a really bad situation or job or relationship or marriage or something, a friendship that just went totally in the wrong direction. It's not our responsibility to fix what somebody else has gone through, and oftentimes those wounds aren't visibly apparent, but it weighs such an emotional toll on our lives, and it shows up on our face, in our physical body, and even our weight. When you have an empty life and you were looking for something to soothe that inner that you can't quite reach, you either run to alcohol or you run to food, or if you are so ADHD and you have to constantly be doing something with your hands and you find the refrigerator open and you are grabbing, trying to fill something, trying to stuff something inside you because you cannot physically and visibly see what has you so distraught. I'm Kitryn Marie. I reside in St. Louis, Missouri. I'm an artist first and a writer, published author. I studied life coaching and business coaching to help with my own art classes that I was teaching. I'm not a doctor. I don't claim to be. I have no big degree. I have a lot of studies underneath me that were topics and subjects that were so important to me that I felt I needed to share. I wanted to share not only the experiences that I had to go through, but what it took to get my art and communications business up and running, and how it was that I could heal from such betrayal. And that would be through jobs, through relationships, through friendships, even through even things in my own family dynamic. Oftentimes, all those things, we stuff it down, and we don't know how to fix it. There are mother wounds. There are father wounds. There are sibling who's first, who came second, the middle child, who's the baby. There's even the dynamic of being an only child. When you have two responsible individuals that come together in a relationship, there's always that struggle of dynamic because that person has always done something one way and they have always been the most responsible and the one who's been the caregiver for the younger ones. You have the middle child that somewhere along the line has gotten completely lost in the dynamic between the oldest and the youngest, and they're trying to just find their way, and oftentimes they're made to be the scapegoat. Then we have the youngest, the one that gets away with everything, the one that seems to get all the attention, the same as the only child. They become very selfish. They become very self-indulged. They will do things to go out of their way to get attention. And then oftentimes when there is a mother wound, especially a mother who has come from an abusive family, an alcoholic family, it affects all of those siblings, whether it be the oldest, whether it be the middle child, whether it be the youngest child. Everybody is fighting for some kind of attention. And with the mother wound, oftentimes she's just trying to protect herself. She's trying to do what's best to keep herself together because she knows she has young ones that depend on her. She has a household she needs to be responsible for. And oftentimes in that dynamic, there is always one or more children who are neglected because the mother is trying to protect herself physically from, a spouse who is abusive, a spouse who is an alcoholic, and too many times children are witness to all those things, and they develop these really, really weird coping skills. The sad thing about that is when those children, especially a man who grows up and has that mother wound, they will look for that mother figure in every relationship that they have. And other times there are men who end up resenting the women who love them the same way they resented their mother. There are father wounds, women, girls growing up just trying to get daddy's attention, just trying to get the physical, emotional part of safety and security. Too many times that young girl is impressionable and she believes that every man is like that. Sadly, when she grows up, all of her choices are based on familiar, based on what she knows how to act, how to get the attention and how to get the love that she needs. But when you have a mother wound and a father wound and two grown adults that are trying to come together to make something normal, something functional, something where there is growth, where there is happiness, where there is safety in all measures, neither one know what that safety is. Neither one know exactly what that dynamic is supposed to be. And somewhere along the line, it gets so turned upside down and, discombobulated. All those things physically show up on your face. They physically show up in your life. They physically show up in your jobs. Being responsible, the oldest especially, you are the first one. You are the one that was made to, have all the eggs in one basket. You are the one that was responsible. You are the one that was told you will be the caregiver when there is other siblings. And you will have to sacrifice anything that you need or want because there's going to be somebody else that's going to need a little bit more. The dynamic changes. And if you do not adapt as you are growing up, especially as an adult when you are having children of your own, if you have had parents who have abandoned you and run out on you and left you with, Aunt so-and-so and Uncle who knows what or where, you have those same tendencies when you get to be an adult and you have children of your own and you cannot regulate an emotion. You run out on your kids too. If you come from, a family where there is alcoholism and the mother or the father, decides that having fun and falling in that bottle, in that whiskey, in that beer, in whatever shot is available, the children always get neglected. The children are always left because the parent finds that it was more important to have a good time. It was more important to take care of their own coping mechanisms than it was to pay attention to the children that they bore, the children they had. They run out on their children just like their folks abandoned them. And it shows up somewhere along the line in your physical appearance. It shows up in your makeup. It shows up in, when I say makeup, the way you are made up, the way that you are interacting with all of your relationships. If you are a runner, you are avoidant. If you are avoidant, you do not attach. All those things physically show up when you are going from relationship to relationship to relationship, because you never really learned what real emotional safety looked like. You never quite understood where panic and anxiety has set in, and how now you have somebody who loves you unconditionally, but it doesn't feel safe. It feels more panicky. It feels like there's no place to hide. There's no home base. There's no stable, because your emotions are so dysregulated. And you end up self-sabotaging the things that you actually want in your life. We talk about that in my vision board class, which is an art class. It is a cut and paste class. We talk about, where have you been? Where do you want to go? What was the life that you wanted? What did you base your emotions all on? For whatever reason, now I don't watch TV, but when I was really, really young, I loved to watch all the Gidget movies, and I thought for sure romance was supposed to be like a Gidget movie. Francine and Jeff, Gidget and Moondoggy. Boy meets girl, girl meets boy, boy does something really stupid, and girl goes out of her way to make a fool out of herself to find and have the love that she so craves. And then somewhere else along the line, I came across Peyton Place, where it was a mother and daughter dynamic, and the mother had had an affair. She had this child, and she wanted better. She wanted better for her children. But because of her own upbringing and her thinking inside such a small box, it interfered with what her daughter really needed. Can you relate to any of that? What movie did you grow up on that you were a firm believer that that's how life was supposed to be, and as you got to be an adult, you learned really, really quick? Relationships and love and conditions in relationships, they're not transactional. It's not what one person can do for you. It's about understanding your own emotion and what you are contributing into the relationship that you are wanting, or even the job that you are going after. If you come from a military background, you had a grandfather, a father, and then you decided to go into the military, and then you ran out on everybody because everybody ran out on you because it was a pattern that was learned. And now you've surrounded yourself in the same type of militant environment that you can't get out of because your brain only knows badly broken programming. And it's the ones that have tried to love you to try to make you see life outside of that box. And when you have children who are not familiar with what real emotion looks like, real emotional safety, they do back off. They do not want to be a part of your life. There's a whole dynamic all the way around. Each situation merits other behavior and characteristics. It's up to you to address what you caused and how you were brought up. Is it the mother wound? Is it the father wound? If your father was physically abusive to your mother and you were made to believe that that's just how life was, put yourself for just 2 seconds in your mother's shoes, trying to love a man who did not know how to love. Again, we talk about all those things in my vision board class. We talk about what you want your relationship to look like and what you have been fighting all along growing up, from your first boyfriend, girlfriend, all the way to whomever you are with now. We talk about what did you do that sabotaged that relationship. And if you really loved that person, how could you run out on them? Think about all the regret and the guilt. And the person that asked themselves, what did I do wrong? When that person did nothing wrong. You were only acting out of your own insecurities, your own selfishness, your own fear. Again, I'm Kitryn Marie, reside in St. Louis, Missouri. I'm an artist, writer, speaker, life and a business coach, teach a variety of art classes, how to put a vision board together based on character and behavioral patterns. I teach group painting classes. It's very fun. Very entertaining. If you are interested in any of the classes, reach out, kitrynmarie@gmail.com. Pay attention to your behavior right now. Look in the mirror and look to see what is it about your image that you can change because life has caught up to you. What is it and the little steps that you can take to make amends with the people that you have hurt, betrayed, destroyed. Think about those that have been put on the outside of your life due to something that you did, that you reacted because of the way that they just backed off. They just said no more. They're not tolerating the disrespect. They're not tolerating the bad behavior. They're not tolerating the old patterns and habits. You cannot be angry at somebody for reacting to the way you performed in the relationship. If you would like to learn more, send me an email. Think about the life you have lived. Think about how it's shown up on you physically. Think about the things that you can do to change that internal dynamic. You don't want to carry these things with you the rest of your life because it very much affects all the people that come in contact with you. For today, for tomorrow, be happy, be blessed, be thankful for everything. Remember, fate turns on a dime. It is up to you to decide what side of the coin you want to be on. We want to be happy. We want to be healthy. We want to have that emotional safety in our life. We want to be able to take care of our physical parts. We want to be able to heal from all the things that we were made to deal with as children. You don't have to carry all of that with you anymore once you recognize the patterns, because once you recognize the patterns, you never see anything different. You see it for what it is, and then you learn to cope and you learn to go on to bigger and better things in life. But enjoy your Sunday wherever you are. Take care, and I will see you real soon.